Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of blank?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself. Ooh. Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good after a little lunch break.
After a
Belly's
little lunch
full.
break. Yes.
Yes. Welcome everyone to Ben and Jake Write a Movie, episode 60.
Wow. Feels like just yesterday we were doing 50.
I know. Went
Has
well.
it really been 10
10
episodes
days.
since then? That's crazy.
Yeah, episode 60. I mean, look, it's going to be February soon.
It is. I know. I feel like I should have accomplished more in January than I have.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the way of things. That's
It
the
is.
way of things. Well, here we are doing our podcast, episode 60 of
Yep.
writing a new spec screenplay live and
Yes.
imparting our little nuggets of, I don't even want to call them
I know. Like, are they wisdom?
information to
Information?
people.
Telling you stories of things that happen to us.
Right,
You
right,
can
right,
do with
right.
that what you will.
Yes, stories of things that happened to us.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, so here we are. I was thinking about the fact that we were on episode 60 as I was writing 60, and I was like, wow, there's granted most episodes now, I think the bulk of them have about 20 minutes before we get into writing. I think we
Yeah.
shifted probably around episode 30 or so.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of episodes whereby we do our cracking of the story and then our outlining, and then now we've been going back to outlining and doing other things.
Uh-huh.
And I was just wondering about if there was a way for us to still make progress on this screenplay, but find ways to maybe solve problems or do things that encompass other aspects of our process so that it just becomes not so maybe monotonous. I don't know. Maybe the viewers are really enjoying just like the day-to-day, and I could be completely wrong. I'm just wondering if there's
That was part of the original concept of the show. Was what does it look like? But I'm open. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, there's like, for example, I don't know that this would necessarily work, but maybe a lot of times when we crack a story, we actually put it into pitch form before we even outline it. Are there aspects of the story that maybe we haven't worked through that we need to do that? Or are there, things about...
It would be actually a really interesting series of episodes going, we are going to spec this, but what does it look like to put it into pitch form? Because I think that is something, and again, like if you're going to pitch something, I don't think at the moment that the industry is ready for pitches, weirdly, yet still at the moment. I don't know.
I hope they are.
I hope they are. I mean,
we've got a couple going out soon.
But an original.
Yeah. No,
I forgot my train of thought. What was I saying? It was great.
Just that pitching is a huge part of it.
Yes, that we will. We will. If we were going to go and pitch something, you have to have all that information ready to go anyway. You have to have the film cut out. Perhaps not to the level of an outline, but you do have to have it ready to be. So, for example, a couple of years ago, our agent said, well, what's your working process? Do you outline first? And we were like, yeah. He's like, well, just put that into a pitch. If the pitch doesn't sell, you can always write it.
Exactly.
So maybe that would be interesting to do.
Well, it's interesting because, and maybe this is, before this broadcast, we were cracking a story, and before that, we were running a pitch, and it got me thinking about even just the way in which we were talking about our hero and our villain of the story that we were cracking right before lunch, the detail work that we were going into because we needed it. And it's going to be a pitch.
Yeah. Right.
So we're actually we worked on 2 pitches this morning. You know, and we'll be working on it again after this broadcast as well.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if some of the things, again, it's like, I don't want to stop outlining, and we do have our scratch document. And so there is benefit to all the work that we've done, but we've started to change so much of it. Like, honestly, that scratch document was a great way to start it off.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even go back and reference it right now.
No, I don't think I would either. Unless you just put
grown past that document.
And that's great. And that's great. Yeah.
And you know, we're about to get to an interesting place in the story where a lot of stuff needs to be worked out in ways that weren't worked out in our macro view. Like, our scratch before we started outlining was very macro, right? And we do that a lot of times. We'll go, here's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And if you've watched the earlier episodes, you've watched us go through this and go, here's the major turning points. Here's where we want to set piece. This is how it's going to end. Okay. Now that we have a grasp on our characters and our story, now we start outlining and we go into the micro. But there is kind of a middle step. And sometimes we do it and sometimes we don't. But because of the kind of format of what we're doing here and kind of bringing everyone into that process, you know, that middle step really is the real deepening and crafting of the story as if we were going to pitch it. And that doesn't necessarily always give you every detail of Act 2.
No,
because we don't do that.
That's not what you do in a pitch.
But it really focuses in on character.
It does.
Usually. And that's something that we have been spending a lot of time on recently, where we haven't even gotten to like typing the page of our outline. Because basically we end up going back to like cracking character, hero stuff, villain stuff. And I wonder if maybe, I don't want to say that we jumped the gun into the outline, but maybe there was some more deepening that could have been done. And is it worthwhile doing it in pitch form? Just a question. I don't know.
I guess my reticence about it is, I think we're having conversations about the show on the show, and that's okay. I think my reticence about it is I don't want to get, again, it's not to say it's wasted time. I don't think it's wasted time. I just feel like the writing of it in pitch form might be wasted time.
Sure.
Because that's not what we're doing with it. We're not preparing this as a pitch. We are going to spec this as a script. So my instinct would be to keep doing the outline, to keep addressing the issues as and when they come up live on YouTube.
Live. Here we go. Guys, we actually don't talk about this project until
we don't
with you.
And it's not because we don't love it. It's just because we really just want to keep all of the
these are our conversations.
These are our conversations. Yeah, for sure.
And that's the thing. I hear what you're saying. I'm just wondering if there's a way to kind of just shake things up a little, because I don't want it to feel. I feel like there's just a constant. And now we're outlining these scenes. Not that I don't like the progress we're making, because I actually really do.
I do too. Yeah. One of the things that we had discussed was we were trying to have a conversation either yesterday or the day before. What day is it? Wednesday? Maybe it's the day
Today's
before.
Wednesday.
Was that do we podcast every day? Do we do this even every day?
Right.
Do we perhaps, let's say we were going to do it less times per week, but we're still spending time on the scripts and coming back going, hey, here's what we've done. Here's what happened since last we worked.
Right.
Maybe there's benefit in that. I think that, as we've discussed numerous times ad infinitum, what I like so much about it is that roughly 2:00 every day, I know I'm doing this, and I like the routine and the rhythm that it creates. So regardless if we did it live, I would still want to continue to find an hour in the day where we would just do this. And so therefore, why not do it live? You know?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Well, pre us diving into the outline, doing what we've been doing in terms of talking a little shop before. Because we're working on multiple pitches at the moment. I was wondering if there was a businessy thing that we can talk about. And we've touched on a lot of different aspects of pitches, and we've said many times that we should probably just do a whole thing on pitches.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me, and this has just come up recently, actually, we have been discussing this with our team, with various producers that we're working with, and it really has to do with how to sell a pitch today. Is it what you said before, which is it possible? I mean, you see them in the trades. There are pitches that are selling occasionally. They're usually very high profile. I don't know of one recently that was on the kind that was felt like it was new world.
I saw one just on deadline before the break.
Oh, wonderful. You should pull it up. We should see.
Let's have a look. Now, was it? Yeah. Let's have a little look. It was by either the writer or director of Barbarian.
Well, that's not exactly a small fry, right?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's maybe the example of going like, it's possible if you had an incredibly successful movie.
Sure. I mean, that's the thing is I feel like what we keep seeing are essentially the up and coming stars or real stars.
It's a spec.
What's that?
It's a spec.
It's a spec.
New Line Cinema
Blacklist. Yeah.
New Line Cinema won a heated auction for Weapons, a film it will fast track with the team behind the horror thriller Barbarian. Zach Kreger wrote the script and will direct alongside Barbarian producing team Roy Lee of Vertigo. Blah blah blah. Right. So yeah, the spec.
There you go. And I wonder, and I'd love to hear from any writers who may join us in brief moments, what their recent experience has been.
Yeah.
What we're essentially being told is that selling, and I'm specifically talking about film right now.
Yes.
Not television.
Yes, television is naturally pitch based.
It is, because it's not a single script, it's an entire series.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you write it, let's just for a second, anyone who doesn't know this, even if you spec'd a TV pilot, most likely you're going to have to pitch the show, even with a script. So the pitch process in TV is just an essential part of how you sell anything.
Because while the pilot script speaks for itself and talks about concept and character and tone and story, it's not going to be, well, what's the story of the season?
Or
what's going to be, how does
3 seasons? Yeah,
3 seasons. Yes, absolutely. What's the ongoing story here? What's the engine that's going to continue to drive this show? You won't necessarily get that in the
and there's characters that probably aren't even in the pilot that are going to be really important to the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to feature pitches, where you're not trying to pitch a series, you're trying to pitch one movie, maybe a franchise possibility, but really it's one movie. How does one create enough of a package or enough of a commodity out of just a pitch that you could make a dent in the market, right? So we've got, there's multiple things. One, you could find an IP that people want to potentially make a project out of already, and try and get the executive who controls that IP or producer who controls that IP to listen to your take, and then it's already kind of on a slate. And we're doing that with something right now as well. Or you can find another type of IP whereby, and this is what the other thing that we're doing, whereby you try and get a shopping agreement and use that IP as part of your pitch. An IP helps, but it's not the end.
And by an IP, we mean a book, we mean a comic book, we mean something that already exists. IP in an intellectual property. Something that already now, of course, there are some public domain IPs. We've talked a little bit about that.
We use those all the time.
You know, this was really funny. The other day, I was talking. I've been writing this book that's inspired by A Christmas Carol, and my 9-year-old son said, "Hang on a minute, Daddy. How are you able to write A Christmas Carol? Doesn't the original author own the copyright?" And I was like, "Oh, you not like." 9-year-old boy, like understanding these concepts, like that's amazing. How do you even know that's a thing? It's like, oh, I was learning about it in class. Like that's amazing.
Wow. That's
and
great.
Like public domain and death of author plus 70 years.
Yes. You know, I think that number one, as we know, packages are really important. But what's interesting is at the moment, I think also, you know, the size of the movie, the type of movie and the audience that the movie is for, the type of place that you're trying to sell it to, I think would be really, really important in a pitch market right now. And I wonder if, like, how do you get talent to attach to a pitch? How do you get a director to attach to a pitch? We've been having these conversations, and I think they're really interesting conundrums because this business has changed so much that the development aspect of movies has also changed. And so the idea of just selling a property and with a studio going, yeah, we like that, let's see how the script comes out, is less likely to happen. And yet at the same time, the idea of getting a giant name director or name piece of talent to come on to something where you have no script and it's going to be, oh, will you come on and maybe in 6 to 9 months we'll have something, you know,
as we've discussed, you're not gonna most people are not gonna spec a script based on IP because they do not control that property unless you have bought that or it's a book that you've written.
And I mean, honestly, and this conversation is specifically about not speccing.
Yeah.
Is there a way still in 2023 to make a living as a screenwriter and not spec? I mean, sure, there's like the 10% that get offered jobs.
Yes. And they may be able to sell a pitch.
Sure.
Not based on IP or based on IP. They might be,
or at least if you're the kind of writer who has really established a track record and a brand, you could get talent. Derek Kolstad, who was our.
It feels like every other week he's so busy. Every other week I feel like I open up Deadline and it's Derek Kolstad to adapt Streets of Rage.
Right, and they will bring him on to a piece of IP. There will be an actor or a director who'll go, I want to do a movie like this. Maybe Derek would want to come and do it. And so he's able to sell pitches because he has enough of a brand to where people go, well, I know what the script is going to, I know what I'm going to get with the script from this guy.
I'm going to get Derek Kolstad's script.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
But it used to be that you would go, I have this great idea. It's super unique.
Yes.
Let me tell you the story for 20 minutes. And then when I'm done telling you the story, because I've got a great producer with me, you're going to trust the producer to help develop the screenplay with me.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's a director or someone attached to produce with the possibility of them directing if the script comes out. And that might help you sell the pitch too. Or there's the occasional piece of IP that's enough that you can go, hey, we sold I guess it's TV, but the pitch for Final Fantasy, but still it's like there's television, there's IPs out there that are big enough, but most of the huge IPs are snatched up, right? Like places just own those already. They've paid for them. So the IPs that you're dealing with might be beloved, but they're more niche. They're not the big giant, everybody knows that, has read that book, type, giant success. No Harry Potters left out there.
Sure.
to go and like convince someone.
There will be soon.
There will be soon. You know, and I think one of the interesting things that we've been going through over the last 2 years is because that's how we did things for years.
That's how
we would pitch our ideas.
Yeah.
We would usually attach a great producer to the idea ahead of time that studios would trust. We'd go in with the producer, we'd pitch them what we wanted to do, and they'd say, okay, cool, give us a draft.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the last 2 years, and it started with one of our more high profile projects that started as a pitch. We developed an entire pitch for this movie.
Yeah.
It was a great pitch.
It was a great pitch. Yeah.
And with that pitch, we actually managed to attach a very high level actress, which we're being told obviously now is a bit of a fluke.
Yeah.
But we did it. We managed to do it. We had a very great producing team, both elements that were on it, fantastic. And a really high concept idea. So we managed to attach this person to this pitch.
Yeah.
And then after one pass, everybody took a step back, including us, and said, do we need to spec this, guys?
I know.
Even though it was an original idea, even though we, you know, it wasn't based on IP or something that, you know, it was like, and maybe that's why public domain IP, right? Yeah. I mean, with this incredible package, and we were like, well, wait, shouldn't we just take all the shots, see if somebody buys it, and then, you know, if they don't, then we'll spec it. I mean, that's the way I used to think about things.
Yes.
You know, you go, hey, I've got this shots. Take all the shots. If someone's willing to pay you to write it, fantastic. If you still believe in it after that, go write it. Yeah. And then you can take it out as a script a couple years later. For some reason, that's not what people are thinking now. And there's this weird, I don't know whether it's fear or whether it's,
I mean, ultimately, I think that's the biggest part of it. Hollywood is run by fear. It is run by fear because it's a business and the decisions made by studios are based on, I might really like that as an idea, but is this going to be financially successful? And all of the decisions, it feels, are based on those things, which I understand because it is a business.
Do you think that in today's market, taking a pitch out as a pitch with a producer and maybe no one else attached, taking the swings, do you think that burns the project, and that if you can't, and even if you spec it, you can't take it out again?
I don't think so.
Then why do you think that that's not encouraged anymore?
I don't know. I think it comes down to time. How much time do you want to spend? You're going to spend a month putting a solid pitch together.
Yeah, but as you just said, when our agent asked us, well, how do you write? And we said, well, we break pretty much the entire story. He was like, well, can't you just put that into a pitch? And we said, yeah actually we could. And we did. But
the through line of it is, do I want to spend a month creating a pitch, including outline, working that pitch, setting meetings, having that done, let's call it a 2.5 month process? Or do I want to spend 5 to 6 months, including notes and feedback, getting a really solid draft with producers, in theory, and having that, and then at the end of that, having a script? I don't know.
I would say the spec process, our experience from our initial concept through all the way to sale has been over a year.
Over a year each time. Yeah.
Each time.
Yeah.
So you can have a bunch of those out there spinning at different stages all at once, and that's great. But if you're talking about spending over a year versus a month, and then you're just setting meetings,
right? Yeah.
I mean, you could, in theory, have 12 pitches ready to go in a year.
In theory, sure.
Have one script or 2 scripts ready to go.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing that I just and I don't know the answer, guys.
I don't either.
But why are people not doing it?
Yeah.
Why are people not going, it's a great idea and I should be paid to write this?
Yeah.
Because that's the way writers
it comes down to, again, part of when we've talked about it a little bit lately has been studios don't want to be in development. They don't want to have a script that they then get and then develop and then
there's this weird thing, right? And it's a cyclical thing.
Yes, it is. It's
we've talked about this in various ways.
Yeah.
If writers started insisting on taking pitches out again because their best ideas deserve to be they shouldn't be speccing, they should be getting paid to write and forcing the hands of development.
Yeah.
Yes, there'd be some pain at first. But eventually you go, well, all the best ideas are coming in as pitches. Yeah, there's a spec here and there. But shouldn't we be buying these? Shouldn't we be developing them?
The WGA can't put man out saying no more spec scripts.
No. I'm just talking about the writing community.
Yeah, sure.
We have done this to ourselves.
Sure. Yeah.
Because when the studios say, well, it'd be really great if you brought in an actor and a director, no writer said, fuck that. That's your job. Every writer say, oh, okay, you'll buy this to me if I get an actor and a director. Okay, I'll go spend 6 months trying to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think back to Winter's Night. We were unknown writers. The producer went, how can we make this? The producer was like, Lawrence Gray said perhaps he needed to partner with somebody bigger. Partnered with Mark Platt. Then when we should really get some good some interesting filmmakers. So in that situation where it was newbie writers,
right,
and then that sells big, and then all the other people in Hollywood go, "Oh, that's a good example. We should do that too." I'm not saying that happened with us, but like one thing happens where something's all packaged up together and it goes, and then
there's always been packages,
of course,
right? There's always been packages, and I don't think that will ever go away.
Right.
But I think that there was a day where development was a thing. Development money, development executives.
I think it is still a thing. I just don't think it's as much of a thing. I think perhaps when a studio buys a piece of IP, they don't mind developing. Like,
totally.
Narnia. Netflix bought Narnia 5 years ago.
Clearly, they've been in development on
They've been developing it ever since.
Yeah.
You've got some questions.
Sure. Before we head into our next segment, let's answer some questions.
A couple from Nick. Thanks, Nick, for chiming in.
Yeah.
2 pitching questions. 1, how much emphasis do you put on the marketability of a story you're pitching, i.e. target demographic, how you'll bring in non-primary audiences?
A sentence or two, maybe.
A sentence or two. Here's the thing. Studios get it. They know.
Well, that's the thing. If your pitch isn't clear enough and clean enough for them to understand who the audience is, then you're doing something wrong to begin with.
Totally. And they might ask that in the Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
What's the rating of this movie? We've absolutely been asked that.
We actually,
13, it's our whatever. Totally.
Yes.
So, question number 2. I think it's brief. Second question. Ever been blindsided by a question during a pitch? Any questions that always come up?
Yes. Absolutely been blindsided.
We had a pitch once where the producer asked us a question that completely destroyed our pitch in one question. And we were like, yeah,
you're right.
Answer that question. You're right.
I can't even remember exactly what the comment was. It was for an open assignment, actually. And we had come in with this take.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, this was a very smart producer. Totally. We thought we had it all mapped out. And it was like, what about this, guys? And we just sat there and went, fuck, in our heads.
Yeah.
For a moment, there's a moment where you try and bullshit. There's a moment where you go, well, and then you just finally go, we'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Totally. And that was exactly. And here's the thing. They weren't like, and never darken my doorstep again. They were like, great. We'd love to hear the solution to the problem. You guys have done some great work. We just never did.
We didn't. No, we never went back. We were so embarrassed.
We were pretty.
We were really embarrassed by that. We couldn't believe we hadn't thought about that plot aspect. The other blind side that I think of is we had a pitch where, and we had pitched to a bunch of people, and this question had never come up before. So we didn't even realize that we hadn't done the work. Because sometimes when you're putting together a pitch, it's a pitch. It's a pitch. You're not intended to know every little detail. It's a pitch. But here's the thing. Sometimes people ask about details, and if you don't know them, you're blindsided. So there was a movie that we were pitching whereby there was a daughter. And there was a son and a daughter, and they go on this adventure with their dad. And the executive said, "So why is the daughter in this movie?" And it just
made us go.
We were just like,
yeah.
So it was a weird pitch. It was a weird question because you're like, well, but that's the story we're telling, right? Like, it's a story about a dad.
Ultimately, it was astute.
But it was a good question.
Because if the daughter had been taken out of the story, would anything be different? And the answer was not really no.
Yeah. It totally like whiplash made us go.
It's an argument for, while you have your pitch is the tip of the iceberg to all of the stuff that you already know and have already got worked out. And it's really tempting. I touched on this on another episode. It's really tempting to want to show all of your homework and go, look, I've got everything worked out. But no, you're doing a 20 to 25 minute pitch. You're not going to have time to show all of it.
No, there's just not enough time.
There's just not enough time. But you still need to have it all worked out.
Or at least look, there are certain things that you can have examples for. If you don't have every set piece worked out, but you know a great example of something that you're going to do, at least it gives them a sense of it.
Yes.
But if you're talking about why is a character in the movie, it's like, well, we obviously had not thought through the very question, which is, why is this character in this movie? Other than just we liked it.
Totally.
We just liked it. That's what we in our minds, we envisioned there being a daughter.
But touching base on something that you said a minute ago, there's, like bullshitting.
Bullshit.
You absolutely can bullshit. And in fact, we know of a great story, and I won't name names or projects, but there was a few years ago a very well-known and pretty successful TV series that came out, and we know the writers and showrunners of it. And they went in to go and pitch. Well, it's based on a very well-known IP. They went in to go and pitch a sequel to this well-known IP. And the producer, head of the company, came in and sat down and said, "So I hear you want to pitch me this prequel." And they went, "Yes, we're here to pitch you this prequel," and came up with this entire thing in a bullshit answer and got the job, and they won Emmys for it.
Right. And
it's amazing. And I don't know that we would have been able to do that.
Yes,
I don't know that we would have been able to do that. I would just go, we would have gone, "Oh, no, it's been a miscommunication. We're here to do a sequel." They were like, "Drop that."
Yeah, I mean, we've had situations where people have said, "So you're here to," and usually we tend to be, look, we'll bullshit one or 2 points, and we've done that, but we've actually been called out on it too.
We have.
In our very first creative meeting ever with a studio, we were blindsided by a question we didn't realize we needed the answer to. And then we started bullshitting, and the executive, who is just wonderful, and she's someone we've worked with many times, basically was like, "Don't fucking bullshit me. Look, if you haven't thought about it yet, just tell me you haven't thought about it yet, and then fucking come back and tell me your answer." I
so appreciated the honesty.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that honesty is very rare in Hollywood, because it's all about making friends and being friends and all that. But because we were new, this executive, I felt, was like, I'm just going to talk to you real. And she did that several times over our career. Just like, you need to know this because you don't know this.
Right.
And that was one of those times. It was like, it's okay if you just say you don't know.
And I was also thinking that there was a time this summer where we went out for an assignment, and we thought we were having a meeting whereby it was literally just a, hey, here's what we want to do with it, and getting a sense for what the producers wanted. We get on the Zoom, and they're like, cool, so you guys ready? We're all ears. And that's a moment where we could have bullshitted through a pitch, but it would have sucked. We weren't prepared at all. We genuinely were there to hear what they wanted to do. We'd read the script, but we were like, well, what do you want to do?
Are you wanting to do? Because sometimes they won't be you won't get clear direction. Sometimes it's, we want a page one rewrite. We don't like this script at all, but we like the concept. Or other times there are some things that are working here, and that's what we needed to find out.
I love when they send you a script and the answer is, we don't want to use anything of this script, but they don't tell you that until after you've read it. And you're like,
I know.
Why did you waste my time?
It's almost like Hollywood executives are deeply insecure people, just like us. The other question is, any questions that always come up? Yes. So can you explain a little bit more the arc of the character?
Arc of the character. No matter what, even if you have said specifically in your pitch what the arc of the character is,
they want to hear it.
They'll ask you about
it. And here's the thing. There are sometimes, and this will go to, another point. There are sometimes times in the Q&A where Q&As, it's rarely just one person at a studio.
Rarely,
you might have, an exec and an assistant or a junior.
Or a junior,
People need to look smart in meetings.
Right.
Is what I'll say.
Of course they do.
If they have no questions, people worry it makes them look stupid. In front of colleagues, in front of you.
Their boss,
absolutely. So that's one of the stock ones that people tend to say. Rarely have I ever gone, did you not hear, did you not hear it? It's never,
kind of answer it again.
You kind of just answer it again and go, okay, so I'll just clarify it.
And that's something you better know anyway.
Absolutely.
So if you don't know the arc of now what's funny is sometimes they'll ask you about the arc of a small supporting character.
They will. They absolutely
that has been like, that we've had the bullshit. Because we're like, why do you fucking care?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we've totally had that. So again, it's about how much you have worked out.
What was it? One time somebody asked us about the romance between two supporting characters in a pitch, and the whole these were literally like small characters it was for show, but they were like, tell me more about the juicy romance between those two. And the whole thing was just
in one scene and they die at the end.
It was literally
it's very simple. They go from being alive at the beginning to at the end being dead.
Look, we answered it. The reality is, if you've spent enough time and you know your source material and you know the story that you want to tell, while it's bullshitting, it's also coming from a place of knowledge and creativity. You're bullshitting because you haven't prepared that specific answer, but you do know the characters and know the story. It's only every once in a while when they go, so why is the daughter in this? That you go, oh, shit.
Let me go out and step into traffic.
Let me go take that screenwriter title off my my resume.
Daniel writes, he said, hey guys, love the channel. Thanks, Daniel. I'm a recently repped writer. Congratulations. With only one under my belt. I had my first general yesterday with an SVP from Thunder Road, and it lasted 20 minutes. Is that a bad sign? Yeah. No, it's not a bad sign at all.
Not necessarily.
Not at all.
No, who knows?
We've had super quick meetings before.
Yeah, and without knowing what you talked about, then that's difficult. If the meeting ended on an awkward silence where you're both going,
If the meeting ended like, so what are the things you're working on at the moment? Honestly, nothing. Well, great, really nice to meet you. Then that's maybe not a great sign.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the reality is the longer you're on with someone because you're you're jiving and everything's great, yeah, that's awesome. That doesn't mean that you're going to
Doesn't
get
mean-
the job or have an opportunity either. Sometimes someone hears what they want to hear from you so fast that they're like, I don't want to. There is like, I don't want to muddy this.
Yeah.
I like the idea you just told me.
Yeah.
Go away. Give me more.
Totally.
And that may only be 20 minutes.
I'll add though, Daniel, and we talked about this in a previous episode. Make sure you exchange information with that person, or if you don't, ask your new rep to give you that person's email and send them a follow-up email in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Hey, really great to meet you the other day. Really enjoyed talking about XYZ. Hope we can find something together. And then at the end of every year, make sure you get them a Christmas card or send them a holiday email, something just to keep this person in your mind. Right. It's really important. These meetings, while they obviously can generate work, the purpose of them is to generate a relationship which will be fruitful in the future. That may not be generals in the future. Right? They're called generals. Absolutely right. So I would really encourage that anytime anyone has a general, that is the start of a relationship. And it's important to maintain that relationship. And that's going to be on you to do that. So that would just be my advice. Even if a meeting is short, it doesn't matter. It's how can you maintain that relationship moving forward.
And here's also, what you have to remember too is that these people have a million things on their plate. You have no idea what else is going on. They may have had a hard out where they needed to get off the Zoom and nobody told you about it.
They might have, absolutely. And they might not say that going into it either.
Right.
You know,
So don't read too much into it, Daniel.
Don't read too much into it.
It's great that you are getting meetings. Thunder Road's a great company.
Daniel, yes.
Good luck.
I don't think we've met at Thunder. We should meet at Thunder Road.
Yeah, it's Basil.
Manic's company, isn't it? Yeah.
So anyway.
Call my agent.
Call my agent. Call my manager. I have a pretty good reason why our manager has not. But anyways, moving right along.
Moving along on this stuff. So should we not outline today? Should we just talk some more business stuff and just make it business episode?
I guess it is just we're already at 42 minutes. To jump in for 18 minutes might not be might not be worth it. So any other questions, guys? Anyone watching? I know we've got 4 or 5 people jumping in and out. Please feel free to write your questions in the comments. That's awesome.
Bringing this back to pitches. I know we were saying, is there a version at the moment where pitches sell? And we were talking with our manager last night about it's all about playing the odds and what increase your chances of things and what decrease your chances of things. Yeah. I think a naked pitch, never do a pitch naked. I think a naked pitch, i.e. with minimal attachments. Let's just say it's
no meaningful attachments.
Yes,
maybe you have a producer, but they're not like an 800-pound gorilla producer.
Yeah. Again, it depends on many things. Is this a big budget movie? Is it a mid budget? Is it a mid budget? Is it a low budget movie? Is it something that they're really looking for?
And there's always the chance. And here's the thing: even when people say no, they'll never sell, that they do.
They do. Yeah.
And we were talking about this morning because I get very frustrated about this business. If you want to be a screenwriter, you have to know going into it, the odds are against you. Period.
Yeah.
What do they say when you join the WGA? They say you've got a better chance of being a professional baseball player than joining this union. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
It is fucking hard. And then once you join the union, getting your next job is just as hard. And getting your job after that is just as hard. And the number of working screenwriters who actually make a living every year writing movies, it gets smaller and smaller every year.
La la la, I'm not listening. La la la.
So the point is not the doom and gloom. The point actually is it is a risk. The odds are against you, and that when you go out to try and be a screenwriter, your whole thing is to to beat the odds.
Yeah.
Your goal is to beat the odds.
Totally.
And to do that, you've got to be more ambitious, more of a hustler, more creative, more relentless, more you got to stack it as much as you can. But then even if you are all of those things, the odds are still against you.
Yes. And so with regards to pitching at the moment, are there naked pitches that sell? I'm sure there are. I doubt they're going to be on $100 million movies. Mm-hmm. Again, it's working out what's in favor of the project versus what's against it. And what's in favor of the project are things that are going to be known commodities. Yeah. You might be a known commodity. The producer is a known commodity. The idea that you're basing it on, the type of movie can be a known commodity. But again, if there are things that are, well, it's great now because not only do you have all of those things, but you've got this young woman who was just the lead of a Marvel movie. Cool, great. Well, that and a filmmaker are the things that are going to really push something up over the edge whereby they might buy a pitch. However, the counter to that is those people tend not to attach to pitches unless it's coming from the 5 or 10 writers. Yeah. The A-list screenwriters. We're not A-list screenwriters yet by any means.
Yeah.
It would be great. We'll be one day.
But you know what? We know some A-list screenwriters, and attaching talent is not always easy, even to their pitches.
Totally.
Absolutely. And the reality is too, like, when you attach talent to a pitch, the studio knows going into it that they're not really attached. They're saying they would like to do it.
Well, I'm potentially interested in this.
But they're not committing until they read a script.
Totally.
And the studio knows that.
Yeah, totally.
So
Absolutely.
there is an argument to be had to say, go out with the best team that you can.
Yeah.
And swing for the fences and hope that you just happen to hit a home run. I think that, it's a very difficult position that we're in right now in Hollywood to go, how many places are willing to hear a great idea and spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're going to need to spend to maybe get a good script and then develop it. That's the way it was always done. And I think it will get there again. I think it will get there after things kind of balance out in terms of this streaming war stuff. I think there's going to be a casualty or two in the streaming wars. I think they're just but do you think, okay, so here's one of the reasons people are saying that this has gone the way that it's gone. And it has to do with the corporate buying up of all the entertainment companies and the fact that no longer do entertainment companies act autonomously. They all have boards and shareholders that they have to answer to, and they have balance sheets that they have to be aware of. And when you put development on a balance sheet that then is not bringing in any additional dollars,
I don't know. I mean, it's tough, isn't it? Because any tech firm spends millions each year on R&D that products.
But they're tech companies,
right? But so is Netflix.
It's different, but they're not.
They are used to that kind of innovation. So
why do you think that Netflix hasn't approached creating content in the way that they approach putting money into R&D?
Well, here's the thing. They have in the past. Like we're saying, I know of 2 giant IPs that Netflix has. That huge.
But that's not pure R&D. That's, I'm buying a huge IP and then we'll develop something that feels like they've undoubted. I mean, we know for a fact that on one of those IPs that we can't talk about because we signed an NDA, that they have written 2 or 3 versions of the show for this, and have been coming and doing another version of it again. This was something we were looking at doing 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't know that.
So They do if the product's right.
But that's the thing. There's no risks on originals.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a real, that's where the shame, I think, comes in. And that's where the risk aversion comes in. It's easy. So if you're Netflix and you're going to your shareholders and going, we just bought the Chronicles of Narnia, it's going to take us 5 years to get there, but don't worry, it's the fucking Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
Well, shareholders are going to look at that as a good investment, right? If you're going, I just spent the same $500 million on 50 original screenplays that I couldn't even tell you right now, but don't worry, they're all ideas. We don't actually have any scripts yet, but we're going to get there, and we're pretty sure they're going to be good. It's a different story. Now, I don't think that, like you said, I'm hopeful that the development will come around again. I think it's generally speaking less expensive for a company to buy a pitch than it is a spec. So if we're talking original ideas, there is a bit less of a gamble to buy a pitch of an original than there is a spec. Now, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
It's less of a financial gamble and more of a creative gamble, because you don't know how the script is going to come out. So I might buy an originals. There might be an original spec out there that is a totally original idea that's going to cost $80 million to make. And there might be a lot of anxiety about, do we spend $80 million on this original thing that has no underlying IP behind it? Or, and the script is going to cost them $1 million or something like that.
Right.
Or someone comes in with the same original idea. It's a big idea, but through development, there's no specific budget attached. The script isn't written yet. And instead of $1 million, I can pay the writers $200,000, and I can get a script, and I can guide that script, and I still love the same idea, but this way, I haven't put as much into it, and I don't know, like, I can still hopefully get a movie that is within what I'm looking for. I think it's a lot about trust. Do you trust your development executives to be able to do that? You know, do you trust the writers that are coming in to be able to deliver? Do you trust the producers that are with the writers to be able to get the writers to deliver? You know, that's one of the things that is also always difficult about selling a pitch, as we're talking in business terms. When you sell a pitch, you better be able to deliver on that pitch. If you're going out with a script, the proof is in the pudding. You've written it, it's either good or it's bad, right? If you're going out with a pitch, you may be able to pitch the shit out of that story. If you can't deliver on that idea and actually turn in a good script, you may never work for that company again.
Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely.
Because that is the gamble, right? They're going, I'm going to trust you. You gave me a great idea.
Yeah, like they might have read your previous work, and you might have proven yourself in several ways. You go, oh, okay, you know, you had a movie come out.
To deliver.
Cool. Yeah.
But you still have to deliver.
Yeah, you still have to deliver.
You have to give them what you promised. It doesn't have to be a shooting.
Well, we had that experience, didn't we? We had an experience where we sold a pitch to Hallmark. Ultimately, it was where it went to. And
Hallmark?
Was it Hallmark?
Freeform?
Freeform. I apologize. Yeah, Freeform. We sold a pitch.
Come on.
Sorry. Yes, Freeform.
No, my mother-in-law loves Hallmark movies.
Absolutely, Hallmark. But we didn't sell it there. That's all. That would have been a lie.
That is the point.
We sold it to Freeform, and we got a whole bunch of notes.
We've talked about this before, yeah.
We had, and we got to a point with the script. We were like, "This isn't good.
We can't turn this in.
We can't turn this in. This is not good." And we said we're going to be late on delivery because
we need more time, because it's more important to deliver something that feels like it is what they were expecting than it is to be on time at the end of the day. And you know, I remember one of our earlier jobs was for a Chinese company. They actually hired us to do a movie adaptation of a comic book, and the pitch was limiting because of the I'll say the limitations of the project itself.
Yes.
And so we could only pitch within the guidelines of what we were told we could pitch on. And some of that had to do with legal things, and other things had to do with creative that they weren't considering going down. But we did it. It was a good paycheck. So we were like, fuck, we want to do this. Let's get paid. It felt like it was going to be an easy gig. We thought we had a good grasp on the material. It was a comic book we knew really, really well.
Yeah, sure.
And so we went ahead, we took the job, we pitched them our take. It was actually a much easier pitch because it was a very people that we had worked with before, and we didn't even have to go into as many details as we normally would.
Sure. Yeah.
But I will say it's the one script of our whole career that I don't feel like we delivered on.
Yeah. I know.
And it's a shame. I
hear it.
I don't blame us because of the limitations that were on us.
I know.
And yet at the same time, that became writing that script was so hard.
It was really hard.
That by the time we were done and had a draft, we were just like, oh fuck, just get rid of it. Like, just take it. Please, God, take it away from us and hire somebody else.
Over now.
Like, please.
Yeah.
And like we have not worked for that company again. I don't blame them if they don't hire us again. I feel bad that it happened that way. But I feel like when you pitch, just going back to it, just be sure you're able to deliver. We've talked about this before in terms of pitching out ideas, even at the smaller level. And I want to clarify too, there are pitches, and we've talked about this at various different stages. Not all pitches are to buyers. Some pitches are to producers, and those producers then may end up developing a spec with you.
Totally. Absolutely.
But the same rule applies. If you're going to pitch an idea to a producer, you better be able to deliver that script.
Yeah, sure.
Because nobody wants to go through development hell when nobody's getting paid.
Of course. You really don't. We've been in that.
And I think that,
we've been in development hell on pitches several times in the past.
Well, and sometimes we had a TV show we sold once where we pitched it. They loved the pitch. They bought it kind of preemptively before we went everywhere else.
Yeah.
We wrote a draft based exactly on the pitch. We delivered exactly what we promised we would deliver. And their response was, based on the market, can you change the important thing? Like, can you change the time and setting to make it modern day when it took place hundreds of years ago in Europe? And so we were like, okay, well,
I guess.
can try. And they were paying us.
They were.
And it's their prerogative what to do with their money.
And we didn't shit the bed on it. It wasn't as good.
But I wish we had said, honestly, we don't want to do something that that isn't gonna really be what we could deliver on. The movie, the show in this case, this is really the concept. And you're going to be disappointed with what you get. Yeah. And then if you are, like, you're going to feel like we didn't come through on our end of the bargain.
Yeah.
And that one was a real shame too, because it's just like, there goes that idea.
And they own that now.
They do. Although, one day maybe we'll buy it back.
One day maybe we'll get that back. We should wrap up. It's been about an hour. I haven't done any writing today. We've just riffed and chatted, and sometimes that's what writers do.
Yeah.
So we'll call it tomorrow. We'll call it Heroes and Villains Part 2.
And I'm going to have to edit the title of this and call it Talking
Pitches.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. We have a slight announcement to make. Do you want to tell everyone what we have for them tomorrow, Jake?
Is it tomorrow or is it the day after?
Oh, it's the day after. You're right. I forgot.
No,
Today's Wednesday, not Thursday.
On Friday, we're going to be interviewing our very good friends and exceptionally talented screenwriters, Vlas and Charles Parlopanades, the Parlopanades brothers. Their show, Blood of Zeus, came out on Netflix a couple of years ago. They're deep in production on season 2. They also wrote the Immortals movie with Henry Cavill in like 2012, I want to say. They're great, really good. Very involved with the WGA as well. I don't know if we'll be able to talk too much about WGA stuff.
Probably not yet, but maybe we'll have them back again. We're going to talk about their process.
We'll talk about their process.
And they're another partnership.
Absolutely right.
It'll be really interesting because they probably do things totally different than we do.
Yep, indeed. So no, it's going to be Friday. It's at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. That's
2
right.
p.m.
Friday,
2 p.m. PST. So come back for that, and then join us again tomorrow, where we actually will be doing some outlining rather than just. I think this was good, though. I think this was a good episode just to kind of talk through.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like not everything's going to be.
Yeah.
Not everything's going to be super productive, but hey, hopefully we informed some people on.
We did. Anyway, we've got to go because we've got a pitch to do in 13 minutes. So speaking of pitching,
oh my goodness, you're right. All right, well, thank you everybody. I'm just changing the.
It's not straight on my end.
I'm trying to change the title in the thing. It's on so many different platforms. Okay, I'm not going to go in and do it on every single one. Hold on.
Got it.
Anyway, you tomorrow.
Bye.
All right. Great. And I don't know if we'll ever get out of here.
Never.